Hi, how you doing? Whitey Harris, Jack Buck, and Top Star Bowling. Let's come along and have some fun and watch some of the top bowling stars of the world in action right now. Welcome to Top Star Bowling from the very beautiful Marlboro Lanes here in the village of Marlboro, just southwest of the city of St. Louis, the gateway to the west, and two very fine contestants for you to watch in this particular edition of Top Star Bowling. Before introducing the gentlemen, and by the way, we had a very exciting ladies match last week, and another one is coming up in the future. Before introducing our participants today, let me tell you a bit about the program and the format. It is a three-game match with total pins determining the winner for $1,000 and $500 to the loser. It's King of the Hill. The winner stays around and takes on another contender. The winner of this particular match, by the way, will be meeting Harry Smith, a well-known name in bowling. In addition, more money kicking around, $1,500 for the high series in a 13-week period, provided by King Louis Shirts, who have also put up $1,000 to the man who rolls the high game. Want to get underway because we have some tremendous action forthcoming, I'm sure. Introducing the defending champion at the moment. He's from the St. Louis area, and he is back for his second week. You saw him 2 weeks ago. One of the top bowlers in the world today, Ray Bluth. Ray, good to see you once again.
Glad to be back.
And we have another fine personality to introduce. He's from Milwaukee originally, now hails from Atlanta, GA, holds a lot of Wisconsin titles, and currently doing very, very well along the way with the professional bowlers in the various tournaments, Wayne Zahn. Wayne? Wayne, good to see you.
Glad to be here.
These Marlboro Lanes and the house and all make it a very attractive place to bowl, right?
Positively.
I know we've kept you waiting long enough, so no more to do. The handshake, and away we go.
Good luck, Rick.
There they are, your bowlers for this session. Ray Bluth and Wayne Zahn on Top Star Bowling. Wayne Zahn won the toss and elected to have Ray Bluth lead off. And so Ray is on 21 and ready to go. This first pitch is always a little touchy in that they've been sitting around for quite a while as we await the start of our show. Let's see how it affects Ray Bluth. Good or bad? And down the nose leaves a 7-pin. And at this point, and for his first comment, I'd like to introduce a member of the Brunswick Advisory Staff of Champions, Jerome Whitey Harris. Whitey, how you doing?
Fine, Jack. I mean, when you commented there about Ray's first pitch, I thought he was away and running, but he's shooting at that 7-pin.
We'll have ample time to tell you a good deal about both of these bowlers. You've seen the style employed by Ray Bluth, and now Wayne Zahn comes up. Wayne from Milwaukee, now out of Atlanta. And I suppose Atlanta would be a good starting spot for the many travels that a professional bowler finds himself involved in. Quite a difference in style between these two. He's crossed over. He went over a little bit more than Ray Bluth did, and over far enough to get to Brooklyn, and that's a good way to start.
I think they even call, in Atlanta, they call that a Brooklyn 2, Jack.
I suppose. Point out right here that Top Star Bowling is sanctioned by the American Bowling Congress. These lanes being used are certified by ABC before each weekly session. Wayne looking for a double. He's on the nose, and he gets a split. Leaves a 6-7-10. Ray Bluth has won one time. He defeated Steve Nagy 2 weeks ago with a 6-26 total. And And he takes down the 6 and 10, leaves the 7. There's the first open in our match. So Wayne, after getting a strike, missed an opportunity to get out in front in the match. And now Ray Bluth has the same opportunity. He's working on a spare and bowling in the second frame.
We get the same question all the time, Jack, in regards to Ray, why he goes into this position and peers over the top of his arm. We'll explain it after he gets this pitch out there.
You were afraid to say it, huh? You were afraid to say it. Whitey, you didn't show me much in the way of fortitude. You almost said before he gets... I'll explain it after he gets this strike, but you couldn't bring yourself to say it.
Jack, I've been second-guessing so much in these matches that I want to be right for once. But the reason Ray gets into this position is that he can get behind the ball, and when he pushes the ball forward, it comes right in line as it goes into his backswing. He's got a short backswing.
He knew he was in trouble when he let it go, and most of the folks in the audience knew the same thing as Ray leaves the 6 pin. Ray will be in the pocket as consistently as any bowler that you can name.
I think it was noted, Jack, in his last match against Steve Nagy, he just missed the pocket 2 times.
There's his spare. So he has a spare, strike, and spare. Wayne Zahn started with a mark, and then he opened as he came up with that split. Now, this is where he struck before. He's pretty far out, but came up nicely. Barely able to get that 10 pin. The two are playing the lanes quite differently.
Yes, they are, Jack, and it'll be interesting to watch. We commented some time ago when Bob Chase was on the show about his follow-through. Well, I'm sure if you watch Wayne Zahn's follow-through, you'll see what we mean by lift on the ball, because he certainly is lifting that ball out over that line.
It's important for all bowlers, of course, but it's focused more on Wayne Zahn's delivery. He's way out. And his second split. You know who he reminds me of bowling, and perhaps you won't agree with me, but Don Carter. That last bit of action at the foul line.
No, that's correct, because one of Don's, why he is so good is that Don is low at the foul line, and that same hand action that you're commenting about, that's true.
Reaching way out, and a lot to do with the middle finger on the bowling hand. So now Wayne will go for the count here, going for the 2 pins, and that's his second open, so he's been able to hit one of the lanes, but not the other.
Did you see that interesting thing here about these two fellas?
In 18 qualifying games in a particular tournament, all-star tournament, Ray was working on a spare. He gets a strike. They share a new record for 18 games, 3,920 pins. So it's been quite a pattern here for Bluth. Spare, strike, spare, strike. For Zahn, strike, split, strike, split. A double would give Ray quite a cushion here in the early going. He's in there nicely. Anytime Ray Bluth is in your presence in bowling, you're liable to see most anything in the way of good bowling. And the same would apply to Wayne Zahn. Of course, not quite so much because he hasn't made the mark that Ray Bluth has in bowling. Leaves a 10 pin. But Wayne, who is formerly from Milwaukee, has a high series to his credit of 824, 5/300 games. In one particular season, he had 27 series of 700 or over. So he can hit them. Brings down the 10 pin. And now he goes back to the lane where he's had problems. Hey, he figured it. He probably said to himself, well, I can't get 3 splits in a row, so I'll just hit it in the same spot.
And you know, Jack, I've never seen one of these pros go over to the scoreboard and erase a strike like that. This is the photographer, actually, which is a nickname for Ray.
Right over that third arrow. And he leaves the 4-7. I think he just put the ball down in a spot where he was not aiming. Threw right at that head pin and got away. Ray's a husky 5'10", checking in at 190 pounds. Quite a student of the stock market. Quite a student of bowling, too, Whitey, with that little black book he carries. He writes down the score and the conditions on every lane for every game he ever bowls. Didn't get to the head pin. One of the few times you'll see that.
One more pitch like that, and he'll be back at the book studying it.
Mm-hmm. He's talking to himself as he came back. He has the 1-2-8. He's to the right, to the outside. Has to take that 8-pin with the ball. And he did. Now Wayne Zahn comes up, and he needs a double right here. He has 2 opens. Ray Bluth has none.
We always like to point out different instructions, Jack. Again, they get set at on the approach there. All these pros do.
Oh, yeah, beautiful lift for that one. Boy, that's great coordination that you're watching. He has complete control of that ball to the last instant. That's when he gets the roll on the ball with that little flip, and is fully extended as he does so. He'll be content with that after that delivery. Boy, that one lane is driving him crazy. 3-6-10 remains. The double was very helpful to him. He's 22 pins down at the moment. He had him moaning and groaning. Wayne's a rather light-hearted fellow. Much in contrast to Ray Bluth, who was a very intense individual at game time.
This can be noted now, Jack. Look at those eyes peering over that wrist.
Once again, he failed to get to the head pin. Leaves the 2-4-5.
It's interesting that Brunswick pin finder, Jack, brings up the lights identifying the pins at 2-4-5, and it remains on even while you're shooting for the spare. Very wonderful asset to a bowler.
That's the way to do it. So no opens for Ray Bluth. They each have a spare working in the 8th frame. Ray Bluth has 143 through the 7th, and Wayne Zahn 123. Quite a getaway. Leaves the 6. He's lost the line for the moment. Well, I tell you, it is amazing, constantly amazing to me.
Well,
the way they lose the line when this competition starts and the cameras are rolling. What a difference it makes. Going for the 6-pin, he continues to mark.
I think what it is a little, Jack, I guess it's important, as this bowling is these fellas' business, and they know what they're doing, and they can make the proper correction, and then all of a sudden they catch themselves getting mixed up a bit. So it's a matter of what their decision back here.
Wayne Zahn trying to get on a strike so he can overcome the 20-pin deficit. He's really hitting that 22. He has 5 strikes, surprisingly enough, to 3 for Ray Bluth, yet he is down. Each has a double, but those opens make the difference. Still can't hit that 21 as he leaves the 6-pin. Make that potential for Ray Bluth 211. The This is the 10th frame for Wayne Zahn. A spare in the 10th, giving him 163, and he needs a 10 count for 183. And that's his final delivery here in the first game. He reached the 180 mark, 181, the total for Wayne Zahn. Now Ray Bluth could go on to 211. He's been out hit by Zahn. Zahn has had 5 strikes. Bluth has had 3. The opens have made the difference. 2 splits. Ray Bluth has had no opens. Boy, did that ball bomb in there. He had something on that one. Gives him 181 through the 9th frame. That was the final total for Wayne Zahn, so whatever Ray comes up with here in the 10th frame will be his advantage. And the second game gets underway. Just outside the 3rd arrow, a double.
I think, Jack, he might have been able to hear you say that Zahn had 5 strikes, and the competitor that he is, he's going to get 6 with this one.
Here's 5 right now. 211 if he hits again. He's in the same spot with regard to the arrow, and there he is. The Ray strikes out in the first game, ends with 211. Wayne Zahn had 181, and at the end of our first game, a 30-pin advantage for Ray Bluth. Well, the second game is coming up here on Top Star Bowling. In previous weeks, notably when we had Steve Nagy participating and when the ladies were here, we had a little fun between games, chatting with the participants and so forth, but it's very obvious that Wayne Zahn and Ray Bluth are deadly serious about this get-together, so we'll just continue as Ray Bluth has a 30-pin advantage, 211 to 181 at the end of the first game. And now more on Top Star Bowling. Now Wayne Zahn will try to start as well as he did in the first game in the first frame. He had a strike. This is the lane that has given him difficulties. Finally gets in the pocket and leaves the 10-pin. And that's what bowling's all about.
Yes, Jack, but I think that was the best pitch he's had on that lane, so possibly if... I don't think he'll be afraid to go out there again, because this looks like what his problem. He was just guiding that ball into the head pin.
Wayne Zahn challenging for the first time on Top Star Bowling. Gets his spare in the first frame. Now Ray Bluth, who came away with 6 strikes in the first game and a 211 total. By the way, Wayne Zahn had 5 strikes for his 181. Bluth had no opens in the first game. He started with a spare. And he rocks the 4-pin and leaves it. He has very little margin for error, Whitey, with the delivery that he employs.
Oh, yes. He's in the class of bowlers, Jack, which have been developed through the years, the recent years, of what they call a line bowler. And I think Zahn is just opposite of that group because he goes out too far.
So they each start with a spare. You're looking at a fellow, Ray Bluth, who is very, very dedicated to his profession in this sport. And you talk about practice. He doesn't let a day go by without getting out on the lanes. Of course, you can't practice like the pros do, and nor can I every day. But if you're in a league and you want to boost your score a little bit, try at least 1 extra day's bowling. It'll pay off for you. There's a typical Bluth strike. So a spare and a strike for Ray. Wayne Zahn will try to match him. One of these two, I have a feeling, is going to put a string together.
We'll be able to tell, Jack, because he's had an awful lot of confidence on this right lane.
He got up there nicely. And in there beautifully. Of course, you don't always know what's going to happen when the ball finally drives through there. Those 10 pins, the 8 10s, the 4. Can be looking you right in the eye when it's all over, but...
Yeah, Wayne takes the 4 steps, Jack, to the foul line.
It's a big backswing. Hey, there he is. A little contrast here, Ray Bluth with the short backswing that he employs and the big backswing on the part of Wayne Zahn. But one thing about both, they're straight.
Wayne lifts so high that he tops the top of our arch down on the riverfront. He's up there, so...
So there's a double for Ray Bluth. A spare and 2 strikes. I'll remind you that Ray started this game with a 30-pin advantage. Remind you further that the winner of this match takes on Harry Smith next week at Marlboro Lanes. In addition to the prize money in a particular show, they're shooting for $1,500 for the high series and $1,000 for the high game in a 13-week period. Will this be number 3 for Ray Bluth? He spun that 7-pin around, had 2 pins working on it.
Well, that's the action, Ray, and you commented before, Jack, on the other 2 strikes where he was throwing pins over there, and this is the same action, so it gets in the idea that this fella is always right in line or even with that pocket.
So he continues to mark. Ray has no opens through the 4th frame of the 2nd game. Now, Wayne Zahn, who started with a deficit of 30 pins, can get back 10 of those pins right here with a hit. He's out, he's up, he's in, he's high, but he carries. He's shaking his head, and a sly grin crosses his face as he walks by. The ball is already there waiting for him.
On a strike like that, you look over here like if I'm supposed to explain it.
Yeah. You can tell me why they stay up. I don't know why you can't tell me why they go down. Okay, now here's the lane that's bothered him. Oh, boy, that really hurt. He had a spare there in the first frame. Then he came back and got a strike there previously. He left that 10-pin in the first frame and leaves it again this time. He whistled by it, nicked it, but couldn't drop it. Dependent because of his 3-bagger. At least he hasn't had the splits. He had 2 of them in the first game. Now Ray Bluth in the 5th frame. He's working on a spare.
Would you say concentration?
Oh, boy, he is the epitome of concentration. He threw that one out the window.
There again, Jack, is the Brunswick pin finder showing the 2, 4, 5, 8. And where it helps a bowler, it enables them to realize that the 8-pin is behind them. And noting how Ray is bowling this, he is right on the center line.
Throwing right at them. Covering all 4 pins beautifully, so Ray Bluth, he has 85 through the 4th frame with a spare up. Wayne Zahn has 99 through the 4th frame, likewise with a spare. So Zahn has whittled away 16 pieces of lumber. And Bluth wants no more of that. The pin difference is 14 right now.
I noticed Jim Moran, the co-proprietor here, winces every time Bluth hits those strikes like that, because if you had a lot of bowlers in a house throwing like that, it'd be pretty expensive on pins.
Well, look at there. 4, 6, 7, 10.
Jack, this is called the double pinochle, and I'm pretty sure that Wayne will just go for 2 of them. In fact, he's shooting on the left-sided approach to go cross lane to pick up the 6-10.
And he takes down 2 pins. Opens in the 6th frame. That's the first open of this game. And that was a costly split, what with Bluth looking him in the eye with a strike already going for him in the 6th frame. Now he got that 10-pin. He had left 2 10-pins over there, but he got this one down. Now Ray Bluth with 105 through the 5th with a strike up, and Wayne Zahn 124 through the 6th with a strike working. Ray Bluth is up in the 7th frame of the 2nd game, has a strike working. And a chance to get his original advantage back. He started this game 30 pins ahead. And there's a 4-pin, no double, for which Wayne Zahn is undoubtedly grateful. Now Ray is ahead in this particular game by 2 pins. Pins 32 ahead, but Wayne Zahn has a strike working for himself. Ray was a little bit afraid of that one. It's hard to tell from his facial expressions because he's not very animated.
I heard a lot of sound effects of ho, 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 trying to hold that ball.
Pretty young lady watching the action here. Now the 8th frame. Bluth carries. Why do you know that? That gal's been here, I think, almost every week.
Jack, of course, you're
You
bound. No, but I mean, I'm so busy with the score thing, and I think a lot of times why you have an opportunity to glance over, but I think I know the one you're talking about.
I'm sure you do. Little baby split. So the splits are plaguing Wayne Zahn. I never see that girl talking to any of the bowlers, so I guess there's no connection there. Probably just a fan.
I'm not going to comment anymore because you'll shoot me down if I say something else about her.
Wayne couldn't get up there. Still another open for him.
Jack, before Wayne was going to shoot, I was going to comment on it, and it is the truth. Actually, the pro bowler would rather shoot at a 5-7 than that little baby split. Seems it's because the action of their ball, why it cuts in sharp, or either they take the 3-pin, or in that particular case, Wayne didn't come up.
See how he does on 21. Well, he was about in the same spot that Ray Bluth was when Ray carried over there. Leaves a 4-7. Zahn is bowling in the 9th frame, so he won't have a strike to work on when he goes into the roll-off, and it appears that he's going to drop further behind. And the 4-7 for Wayne. 2 splits out of the last 4 frames. He has 171 through the 9th. 201 is the best he can do. Ray Bluth has a strike working. If he starts stringing them here, why, Wayne will be in bad shape come time for the 3rd game. Took a little oomph at the foul line to get that 7-pin down for a double. 235 if Ray were to go all the way.
235, Jack, and shooting for that big prize that we have on Top Star Bowling, 1,000, he'd be just 1 pin short of Bob Chase's high 236.
Now Bluth in the roll-off. No 10-pin. I tell you, he could have all but closed his opponent out with that one. Because he started this game 30 pins ahead. He's going to have a comparable advantage in this one.
Jack, each one of the pins that Ray left were possible hits that he could have carried in this game.
A 4, a 7, a 4, and a 10.
Goes in line with his style of shooting, that he's always around that pocket.
He has yet to open. He had no opens in the first game when he had 6 strikes. Now he has 5 strikes in this one. Needs a 10 count for 214. Mr. Zahn's going to have to throw some strikes. Ray started with 211. 213 in this one. 211, 213, 424 for Ray Bluth. If If Wayne were to hit 3 in a row, he'd have 201, and he'd drop 12 pins, and he'd be 42 behind. That's the best he can do. And abruptly, when he saw that ball moving as it was, he looked to see where he was on the approach to see if he had ended up properly.
Well, actually, Jack, I think he did make a move on the approach. He moved to the right, and it's the first time we've seen Wayne Zahn angle in like that. And his ball takes off anyway, so that's why it crossed over to the Brooklyn. He pointed it over to the Brooklyn. That's what he did.
All right, he throws this one differently. That cost him 10 pins right there. His inability to double. Now 191 is the best he can do. So he'll drop 22 pins and be 52 out with 1 game to go. The winner of this match meets Harry Smith next week in Top Star Bowling from the Marlboro Lanes. 191. So Wayne Zahn 181, 191, 372. Ray Bluth 211, 213, 424. And Ray's in great shape at the close of the second game. We talk about various aspects of bowling here in Top Star Bowling. In this particular edition, we want to talk about the industrial leagues. We here in St. Louis, Missouri, and the Midwest are very proud of one of the outstanding industries of the nation, which is located here, talking about McDonnell Aircraft. And we have 2 gentlemen representing that organization here, Jack Frayne from the Recreation Department and their bowling commissioner, Gene Goodman. Gentlemen, will you come up and chat for a while, please? Jack, good to see you. Gene?
Glad to meet you, Jack.
You enjoying the match?
Oh, very much so, Jack. Really enjoy it.
Have you been fretting for Wayne with those splits?
He's had a rough time, I'll tell you there. He's still got 1 game to go, and I think he'll come through and close this up a little bit anyway.
Should be very, very interesting. Gene, tell us a bit about the bowling program at McDonnell.
Well, Jack, each year we have about 2,100 people participating in bowling. We have all 3 shifts participating in bowling. On the first shift, we have about 150 teams, and on the second shift, we have about 60 teams. And on the third shift, we have one team that one league that has 8 teams in it. We also have 2 women's leagues, which consist of 28 teams.
Why did they put so much emphasis on recreation and bowling in particular?
Well, bowling is our biggest activity out there, but the whole recreation program gives management a chance to meet with the employees on the same level. It breaks down a lot of barriers between employees and the management. They can talk as Jack and Bill rather than Mr. Smith and John, the floor sweeper.
Depends what you do out here rather than your salary.
We've had cases where the employee is actually the coach and the boss is on his team, and he tells them what to do. And
yeah, but what about the next? What about the next day?
Next day it's a little different there, but it works out real fine. The management is behind us 100%.
And you get a lot of competition between the various groups out of McDonnell?
Yes, we do. We have quite a few good bowlers out of McDonnell, and it makes a good, interesting time of recreation.
You put up the prizes and all?
Yes, the McDonnell furnishes all the first place prizes and the individual trophies.
Shall we talk about your bowling or let it go at this?
Well, last year I had a rough year.
Jack?
Likewise.
Gentlemen, thank you very much for the story of bowling out of McDonnell Aircraft. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jack Frayne and Gene Goodman. The difference in our match here as the third game is about to commence, 52 pins in favor of Ray Bluth, and the third and final game coming up on Top Star Bowling. As Ray Bluth gets up on 21, he leads by 52 pins. Third and final game, total pins count, $1,000 to the winner. Can't start any better than that. Whitey, what's the difference in the match so far?
I think it is on the strikes. Although the strikes, Ray has 1 more strike than Wayne, but when we look at the splits, Wayne got 4 splits, and this is the difference, Jack, right there. I want to say that was an interesting interview. That was really way out in space.
Yeah. Wayne Zahn needed that one. We're talking about in the industrial leagues, bowling has become the #1 form of employee recreation. Recreation directors vouch for the value of company leagues as top-notch morale boosters. Special leagues, by the way, have been organized for retired employees. Is that a double? Yeah. Okay, now maybe this is the start of a comeback on the part of Wayne Zahn, notably because he got that double with the strike on 21, where he's experienced the most difficulty. And Ray Bluth will try to match that with a hit of his own. Ray has bowled 211, 213. Wayne Zahn hasn't reached the 200 mark in either of the two games. I imagine that a lot of you people looking at that would say that he was fortunate to carry a thin hit like that, but that's the sort of ball that Ray Bluth will deliver. He gets in that pocket, that ball will do the work for him.
I think, Jack, we're proud of our A2, the Brunswick A2 automatic pin setter, but noting Ray, he's ready for that ball when it comes back up that terminal.
And it does get back in a hurry. 3 of them. So leading by 52 pins, he saw Wayne Zahn throw a double at him and he decided to do something about it.
This is wonderful, Jack. Now I don't have to do any adding. Just put those X's down and no more mistakes.
For a while longer, they each start with 3. And this is what you would expect after having 2 games under their belts. To start the 3rd game, fully aware of what they must do to get the X's. Wayne's a youngster, by the way, about 23 years old. Uh-oh. No, he got a Brooklyn earlier, but not this time. Leaves the 6-10 and stops his string right there.
I think, Jack, because of the way he lifts the ball, he gets up to the foul line faster than a normal bowler, and as a result, when he lifts, and we commented on this before, he pulls the ball to the left rather than rolls it.
He gets his spare. Well, just because he stopped the string doesn't mean that Ray Bluth has to. Let's see if the St. Louis in continues. Ray is here for the 2nd week after defeating Steve Nagy. Ray has a host of bowling titles to his credit. Boy, what a line he's got, huh? In case your imagination has been stirred by those 4 consecutive strikes, Ray has 6 sanctioned 300 games.
Jack, one time in a league match, he had 34 strikes out of the possible 36. And the 2 he missed, he actually missed the pins. He left 10 pins. It was an 800 series.
Get up. And the 7-pin rocks, and he stops at 4. But he has increased his advantage, and he started 52 pins ahead. Whoever wins this one takes on Harry Smith next week. There's a spare for Ray Bluth. And he was really bearing down on that one, too. Ray Bluth has 109 through the 4th with a spare up as Wayne Zahn goes to work in the 5th frame. He was really bearing down on that 7-pin and the spare, for had he missed that, why, part of the good work he did in the first 4 frames would have been wiped out. You just knew that he wasn't going to get up there. 2, 4, 5, 8. If he can bring this back, it'd be all right because, no, he was working on a spare. I was thinking that he wasn't working on a spare, but he was.
Jack, here we note Wayne stands to the left of this setup, and we recall Ray was standing to the right.
He could very easily have left that 8-pin. So Ray Bluth has 109 through the 4th with a spare up. Wayne Zahn has 94 through the 4th, also with a spare. Started with 3, then 2 spares over on the Brooklyn side. That's his second Brooklyn of this particular game.
Is that almost like a Texas leaguer in baseball, Jack?
About the same thing, I'd say. You hit it off the end of the bat and get the base hit anyhow. And a 4-pin. Left a 7-pin, now a 4-pin. After starting with 4 in a row.
Jack, from the 10th frame of the first game, and looking at Ray's score, he's been in the pocket all the way. He's only been shooting at single pins, wherever he had them.
There's another spare for him. Yeah. In this game, he's left a 4-pin, a 7-pin. The second game, he left a 10-pin, a 4-pin. Ray hasn't had any opens. There's a perfect strike. 148 through the 6th now for Ray. And he's back on a strike. Wayne Zahn could total well. He started this game with 3 in a row. Has a strike working. Ball dived in. Leaves the baby split to 310, which he missed earlier, by the way. He's the only one to have any splits. And he had 2 in the first game, 2 in the second game. This is his 5th in this edition of Top Star Bowling. He got this. So he hasn't opened in this game. They've each gone through the 7th frame. Ray Bluth started with a 52-pin advantage. 424 to 372. He's all over the place now as he leaves a 3-pin again. This one is all but over.
Yes, Jack, Wayne, in fact, with Ray, the way he's bowling, all he would need a mark in the 8th frame, and I don't think we're going to see Ray let up either. And Wayne is in position to just about get a 200 game.
Shooting for the spare in the 8th frame. So it appears next week it's going to be Ray Bluth and Harry Smith, and they've locked horns before, but let's not anticipate too much. Let's enjoy this one and see what Ray Bluth does in the 8th frame as he has a strike working. Started with 4 in a row, then 2 spares, then a strike, and then out and up and in, and hits it. He hit that 7-pin twice just in case it wasn't going to go down. He had it going down, but it got wrapped again to make certain that it did go down. 268 is his potential.
There was a picture of concentration right there, Jack, when you look at those eyes looking out over that wrist. It means he's really going to hit that spot he's aiming at.
And he did. And he did. There's a strike in the 9th. Now.
You know what I like, Jack? I called that one.
Well, he's only had 7 out of 9. He had the odds going for you.
I guess I'll never make the first team.
I won't give you any credit. Wayne Zahn working on a spare work in the 9th frame. Leaves a 3-6. Wayne is a member of the Brunswick Advisory Staff of Champions. Couldn't quite find the groove in this pair here.
Jack, he'll stand to the left on the approach and go across the lane, and he has to go out pretty far because he hooks the ball whenever he has any pins on the right. He really loops it.
Gives himself a good deal of margin for error. More so than a lot of the other bowlers. He's now on the roll-off and needs 3 strikes for 221. He didn't crack the 200 mark in his first 2 games. On the hit pin, and he leaves a 610 again. Just to bring this back and a 10 count for 209, which would give him 581, and not nearly enough where Ray Bluth could go on to 268 if he were to strike out. 692.
What do you bet he hits the pocket?
Now?
Right now.
Bet you new bowling ball. I had an extra one anyhow.
Through years of experience, Jack, you can observe those things.
You outweigh me. 209 for Wayne Zahn and 581 total. Now Ray Bluth has 3 in a row. He's in the roll-off, looking for 3 for a fine 268 game. He thinks he's got it, and he does. He's going for money.
That is one of the few times where you'll see Ray Bluth go into an action and see he was kneeling on the approach there, Jack. So
He wanted that one. Now here's the real big one.
You mentioned he's out for that money.
We're talking about the King Louis Shirt Award. $1,500 for high series, $1,000 for high game. 13-week period. Here's the big one. There he is. One more for 268. And that would be 692.
And this game here that Ray shot, as we're commenting upon, Jack, he left the 7-pin and a 4-pin. So let's see what he does with this last pitch.
Ray Bluth ends with 268. Sound shooting, huh? 692. And the fans enjoyed it. Ray Bluth, 211, 213, 268, 692. Wayne Zahn totaled 581. Our winner, Ray Bluth. More coming your way. Well, we always have excitement in one form or another here on Top Star Bowling, and this week provided in the final game primarily by Ray Bluth, and up until the time Ray pulled away, a fine match between he and Wayne Zahn. Let's once again greet our bowlers here. We have a chance to chat with them. You want to come up, folks? Wayne?
Yeah.
He's a tiger, huh?
He sure is, boy. I think it was supposed to be a little reversed there the last game. I would have had a shot at it.
Yeah, in your last game, you seemed to be more at home out here on the pair.
A little more relaxed and
Splits made the
stroking
difference.
Ball better. Right.
Then you would have had to go some to match him there at the tail
Well,
end
as it
anyhow.
turned out, I would have had to go all the way from about the 5th, 6th frame.
Ray, another fine game.
Thank you, Jack.
Gee, you could very easily have had that 300 on with a 4-pin and a 7-pin.
Oh, you probably could have, but I'm very happy with 268. Because the way Wayne started, I figured I have to have a pretty good game.
Things like that don't bother you?
What?
Not getting the 300.
It bothers me, but you can't afford to think about it. You just have to worry about the next match coming up next week with Harry Smith.
You're worried about him already, huh?
That's right.
If I were you, I'd be worried about getting the money.
No, I think I'll get that.
Right now, we have a young lady who's a graduate of the John Robert Powers School of Modeling and the Pat Allen Agency here in St. Louis. And her name is Pat Garavaglia. Pat?
How do you do, Jack?
Good to see you.
Thank you. Good to see you.
You've got some money here?
I sure do. A lot
Shall
of
we
it.
take it and flee?
We sure should.
But we won't.
No. No, not
You want to pay Wayne here?
Congratulations, Mr. Zahn. This is a check for $500.
Thank you, Pat.
And it was a tough game. Very
Yeah.
tough.
Thank you.
And to Mr. Bluth, here's your check for $1,000. And congratulations. I hope you win again.
I do, too.
Are you coming back next week, too?
Oh, I wish I could, but I'll sit in the audience.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Thank you very much, Pat.
Thank you.
And Wayne, nice to have had you here on Top Star Bowling.
Thank you, Jack. It's a pleasure to be here.
Next session, you ought to come and stay around for a couple of months.
I think I might just watch the next session.
And Ray, we'll see you here with Harry Smith.
I'll be here, Jack. Thank
How
you.
about that 300? Make
I'll
a promise.
try. No, I can't promise, but I'll try.
Okay. Did you enjoy watching them? Mr. Bluth will be coming back for the 3rd time, and now he has that 692 series for the others to shoot at. And remember, there's $1,500 riding with that because of King Louis shirts. And the high game, 268, there's $1,000 there. We might be in the presence of a very rich man right at the moment. Next week, it's Harry Smith, and again, we'll be back here at the Marlboro Lanes in the village of Marlboro, just southwest of the city of St. Louis, the gateway to the west. Harry Smith and Ray Bluth. And speaking for Whitey Harris, from Top Star Bowling, Jack Buck says thanks for your time this time. Till next time, so long. Top Star Bowling has been presented by Bowling Equipment by Brunswick, the #1 name in bowling. Top Star Bowling is sanctioned by the American Bowling Congress.